rookie of the year candidates in Victor Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren. I want to talk to you for a second about Victor and Chet overall, just generally and basically. What's your thoughts on each of those players as far as the sample size of basketball that you've seen from those two? What's your impression on those guys?
Well, we'll first start off with Wemby. He's been really good. Now, that first game he was in foul trouble, but he still had 15 points or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They've beaten the Suns twice in back-to-back games, which is
Back to back.
impressive. Very
God.
impressive, especially at Phoenix, which I thought was, again, impressive. Wemby is looking like the real deal. I don't know if he'll get selected the All-Star game this year because I was hearing some reports on that, but I just don't know if a rookie can make it. But he was been very impressive, and it's almost impossible for someone to go up against him or even play or even go up in defense. Like his wingspan is 8 feet, so it'd probably
It's
be it.
crazy.
He's looking like the real deal. Now Chet Holmgren is looking pretty good too. I thought last year he didn't play, but before last year, starting before his injury, I thought he could be a potential rookie of the year. But what he had 24 points last night. I'm looking, 24 points. So he was impressive as well. But I mean, these two players, they're going to be good for the next few years as long as they can stay healthy, which I don't think should be a problem. But they'll definitely be the face of the league in probably 2-3 years, and maybe already Wemby is the face of the league. But I mean, it's just been impressive to watch those two play.
People will argue that Chet Holmgren, at least right now, excuse me, has a better supporting cast. But he's also playing tougher competition right now.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody will get to eventually play each other. But what I witnessed with Victor, what he did versus Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns in back-to-back games, like it was just total dominance. And he pretty much been showing that consistency level um, for this handful of games that we have seen so far. I've been very up on Victor Wembanyama. Even in the offseason, I projected him to lead this San Antonio team to the play-in tournament. I really feel like if things go well for the San Antonio Spurs, if they play their cards right, I think Victor can give them guys an opportunity to get some playoff games going. And I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing from him. Of course, we got to deal with the size, and I think defenses will eventually start banging on him because it's so early. They're going to pretty much bring that physicality to him eventually. So it'd be interesting to see how he adjusts to that. But I don't see why he wouldn't be an all-star this season at the 5 position if things keep going the way they are. And rookie of the year, he's just so polarizing, bro. Like Chet Holmgren is definitely a great player. He got a good supporting cast. OKC may go further than San Antonio initially, but Wembanyama is box office. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where it's going to separate as far as levels. I'm really liking both guys, but to me, Victor overall has been the most impressive in my eyes.
Yeah, he has been, and he's been pretty much everything that people have hyped him up to be. Um, as long as he can stay healthy, which I don't think he has an injury or a history of injuries, which is nice to see. But as long as he can stay healthy, he's going to be hard to play against. And of course, the Spurs have had the history of big men, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, now goes to Wemby. He finally gives the Spurs something to, cheer about because the last few years have been kind of rough for the Spurs. And to bring in a guy like Wemby, I mean, yeah, you're right. I think they could make the playoffs. At first, before the year, I didn't think they could, but what I've been seeing lately, they could definitely make the postseason.
At least the play-in tournament, giving
Mm-hmm.
themselves a chance to win. Now, you talked about David Robinson and Tim Duncan. We know those guys were led by Greg Popovich, but what are your thoughts on Greg Popovich in today's game? Because I am from the thought that we're not going to see the greatest of Victor Wembanyama until Greg Popovich leaves. I feel like his style of coaching is a little bit too old school for this new era of basketball. And you've watched the San Antonio Spurs the last few years, JJ. They've had a bunch of young guys and they haven't been successful. And they haven't had the best talent. But part of the reason I think is because of that old school style coaching of Greg Popovich. And I feel like once he gets out the way, we'll definitely see the greatest of Victor Wembanyama. But do you think that chemistry or that combination of Greg Popovich will work in its first year with Wemby?
I mean, if they make the playoffs, I think that's a success. I could possibly sing, but the thing with Pop, I don't know if he'll actually. It doesn't seem like he's in too much of a hurry to leave. I think he was just extended before the year started, if I can remember
Yep.
right. And I think as long as Wimby is healthy and he's there, I think he's going to be there the next few years. It would be fascinating to see what he would do without Pop, but I don't know about that. That's debatable. But I mean, Pop does have an older type of coaching. I don't know. I think it'd be too hard to tell right now. But I mean, it just I could see the Spurs have been young lately the last few years with guys like Devin Vassell, Keldon Johnson,
Yep.
Shohan. I think this team will make the playoffs, but I just don't know if we could really. I think that will be in a few years till we can actually see what he would do without Pop, because I don't think Pop is in a hurry, and I wouldn't be surprised if Greg Popovich decided once he decides to step down from coaching. I think he still would be the president. I think president of basketball operations. So I can't really see
Mhm.
him in too much of a hurry to leave, especially right now. So
It's going to be interesting when you talk about individual careers. Who do you project to have the better career overall, Chet or Victor?
I think right now, Victor, Chet Holmgren, though, I think he's going to be pretty good, but I think he's going to have a little more. I think he's going to have some more injuries than Wimby. It seems like Wimby, as I was mentioning earlier, he doesn't seem like he has a lot of injury history. I think we saw that with Holmgren last year. I think at the moment, I'm going to just stick with Victor. Um, I just think Wimby right now is going to have the better career. And like I said, I think that it all comes down to health. And I think it seems like Wimby is a lot more healthier than Holmgren.
See, I don't know what those players look like in France. I don't know what type of competition Wembanyama was playing with before, because you're right. He doesn't have a documented history, I don't believe, of being injury prone.
Mm-hmm.
But the physicality of the game in the NBA could have been totally, and I think he even admitted that, when they asked him what was his first takeaway from being in his first NBA game, and he mentioned the physicality of it. So even though he doesn't have a history of injuries, I think that could be partially because he's not facing any competition and rough as tough as what we have in the NBA. So,
Mm-hmm.
the jury probably will still be out on that category until maybe mid-season, to see how he adapts and adjusts to, the aggressive play that the defenses are going to be bringing to him. Um, do you is can you see a rivalry like you have Magic versus Bird? We have, or Jordan versus Magic, or LeBron versus KD, and all these rivalries over the years. Could you see a Victor Wembanyama versus Chet Holmgren type of rivalry as two of the young faces of the league coming up? Could you see a real rivalry between those two being generated?
I could maybe see something. I think the rivalry I think kind of hurts it because both are in the Western Conference.
Mhm.
And if I feel like if Chet Holmgren where Victor was in the East or the West, I think that would be more of a rivalry. It doesn't seem like in today's day there's as much of a rivalry as there was back in the day. Even like 10 years ago, I feel like there was more rivalries.
For sure.
Um, I could see something, but I just feel like right now, or at least in the future, we're probably not going to see those rivalries like we did. And I think it kind of hurts it because they both play in the Western Conference. Um, so I could see a little something, but I don't think I could see a rivalry like LeBron versus Durant or Magic versus Bird or MJ versus the Pistons or MJ versus Isaiah. So I don't know if I could see a rivalry like that. I could see something, but I'm going to say probably no.
I agree with you, bro. I think when we have conversations about comparing the future of the league, I think we'll have both of these guys' name mentioned in a lot of the same conversations.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as rivalry, probably not, because Victor is on another level, even in the media. He's box office. So Chet is not that outspoken. Not to say Victor is outspoken, but I don't know how much they're gonna put the camera in front of Chet Holmgren for him to even be on that type of level. The camera is always going to be on Victor, all 82 games. You understand what I'm saying? So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's definitely going to be levels, but their names will be mentioned in similar conversations when we talk about faces that's going to be carrying the league. So I'm impressed with both of those guys. What is the biggest concern JJ, that you probably have for Chet Holmgren and Victor Wembanyama overall? What would you say is the biggest concern or your cause to pause with these guys?
Well, I think with the problem with Chet is I've already kind of mentioned the injury history is going to be a big problem for Holmgren.
Right.
Um, it seems like at the moment he seems like he's healthy, but I think the health is going to be a huge concern for Chet and the Thunder. It also depends on how the Thunder can handle it. Now, the nice part about OKC if they have a little better of a team than San Antonio. They have Shea Gilgeous-Alexander as long as he can stay healthy as well. I know he's been banged up recently, but I feel like Chet injuries is definitely a concern. For Victor, he just doesn't seem like he has. It doesn't seem like he has much really weaknesses at the moment. I do think possibly playing his supporting cast isn't as good, but right now with Wemby, I don't know if there is much concern, but he is a rookie. He's got a lot left to go. I'm going to say on Chet's part, health, and I don't really know if there's much of a concern right now with Wemby. I don't know if he has a lot of weaknesses at the moment. So
Yeah. How far do you think each one of these individuals can take their respected team as an independent? Like, do you look at Victor Wembanyama as a guy that could put San Antonio on his back and really take them places? Do you look at Chet Holmgren, even though, of course, you got Shea Gilders, Alexandra, and a couple other guys over there, but when you look at these guys as individual, how much of a value do you think they have on their respected teams?
I think Wemby has a better chance of leading his team and carrying them on his back because it seems like right now Holmgren is the number two to Gilgis Alexander, and I doubt the Thunder would give up Shea for really anything at the moment. I think right now, I think probably the Spurs will get, if they make the playoffs, they'll probably get beat in the first round. But I think within 2 to 3 years, I could see the Spurs. This is kind of a stretch, but I could see the Spurs making the conference finals and Wemby carrying him on his back. For Chet or for Holmgren, I think again that team is always going to be led by Shea as long as he's there. But I could see him possibly making the semifinals. But I think right now, I think I'm more confident in Wemby to lead them to the conference finals and eventually to the NBA finals in a few years. That might be kind of a stretch at the moment, but I think I trust Wemby more to carry the Spurs on his back than Holmgren to carry the Thunder on his back.